Small Ownership Landlords of Ontario Incorporated recognizes that its work and the work of its community partners takes place on traditional Indigenous territories across the province. We acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory, now called Ontario. We are thankful to the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario, and to all communities across the province. Solo is honored to collaborate with Indigenous housing providers, stakeholders, and communities throughout the various territories. We're going to start today by introducing the Vice Chair of Solo. We're going to get into some details about who we are and what we do. I'm going to talk about the current state of the LTB and the impact that has on small Ontario landlords, housing providers, and the rental market in Ontario. We're going to give you some solutions and protection for landlords that we can implement today. We're going to share some stories from Solo members. We're going to open up the floor to MPPs who have questions or comments about the stories that they heard. And finally, for any MPPs that have any statements or comments they'd like to make, the floor is yours. I invite the Vice Chair of Solo, Rosemary.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome our esteemed guests. We have 17 Ontario members of provincial parliament and 390 landlords in attendance tonight. It is a pleasure to see members from across the province and as far north as Northern Ontario. Solo would like to give a special thank you to the team that developed and coordinated the Zoom town hall, Subra Dutta, Manpreet Singh, and our chair, Bubakar Ba. Our goal tonight is to partner with members of parliament for assistance, explain the challenges that are causing property housing providers to leave this industry, which in turn is impacting the housing crisis. We need legislation changes to stop the flow of rental housing loss. We are the mom and pop landlords who provide at least 48% of rental housing in Ontario. We are the foundation of rental housing stock in Ontario. My name is Rosemary, and I'm the Vice Chair of Solo, Small Ownership Landlords of Ontario. Along with the Chair, Bubakar Ba, and our other Board of Directors, Crystal Bonsai, Vera Mahanahik, Asif Aptab, Varun Sriskanda, and Ray Rashid, we advocate for 6,300 property owners across Ontario on a volunteer basis, 7 days a week. We support many landlords who have experienced extreme financial losses and mental stress. And from our polling, many have decided to discontinue being housing providers, whether it is temporary by leaving the property empty or selling off their properties. Owners have been impacted by policies and lack of support from several government agencies and government legislation. These include the Residential Tenancies Act, the Landlord Tenant Board, Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, police services, fire services, bylaw, and even utility services when it pertains to water. Polls. We have a poll in which we ask property owners, how many long-term rental doors have you shut? A total of 62 doors were closed down by 24 landlords. Of the 62 doors, 24 doors were shut down by 4 landlords, and these numbers do not include the email I received on October 20th. Quote, I have given up and sold all 5 rentals, which equates to 10 doors. Good luck on the fight. This adventure shattered my life and bank account after killing my sanity. Note, the houses were all sold to homeowners, but the 10 units were comprised of 2-story homes and were returned to single residential units, effectively removing 10 more units from rental housing stock. We will present a list of changes that we would like to see as soon as possible to stop the flow of owners shutting down their businesses. We need help from you to communicate to Steve Clark, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who is responsible for policies and procedures and legislative changes for default judgments. We need the bar raised for early hearing requests when issues of financial, mental, or criminal distress are provided. This ministry controls policies that affect the inflow of applications. On average, 5,000 applications are received monthly. How can they keep up? Please also communicate to the Honorable Doug Downey, the Attorney General, who is responsible for the operational side, for staffing, in charge of the rental housing enforcement unit policies, and the police. Also, Minister Marilee Fullerton of the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services for legislative changes that will ensure that the rental portion of any monthly funds provided must be paid to the property owner. And the Minister of Finance, Peter Bellin-Falvey, who is critical in any financial decisions. These are the decision makers. Note, the recent housing file announcement had nothing in place regarding improvements to the landlord and tenant board policies, the act, or support for small ownership landlords. We need legislation and policy changes, and we have ideas. Help us make changes, and reduction of rental stock will slow. This is our call to action. Thank you. And at this time, Varun will return to the formal presentation.
Thank you, Rose. My name is Barun Triskanda. I'm a member of the board of directors at Solo, and it's an absolute pleasure to be presenting this to you today. Let's start with who we are. Now, Solo is a Canadian federally incorporated not-for-profit organization where can we remind all participants to please keep yourself on mute? We're a federally incorporated not-for-profit organization, and we advocate for the rights of small mom and pop housing providers in Ontario. Now, our members don't own skyscrapers. We own your house next door. We own single family homes. We own condominiums in apartment buildings, and we own basement apartments, duplexes, townhomes, things like that. We were founded in the spring of 2020 to address the concerns of landlords across Ontario and at the start of the pandemic. Our members typically own less than 5 rental units, and most of them have just 1 or 2. Every month, we continue to see hundreds of new members join our Facebook group. Why is that? And let's look at it. We provide a valuable service to our members. We connect landlords with highly skilled legal professionals that specialize in representing landlords before the tribunals and courts. Our professionals are excellent. They have extremely good experience, and they know their way around the board and around the Residential Tenancies Act. Most importantly, they know their way around the tricks of professional tenants. We advocate and partner with municipal and provincial stakeholders, including meeting with the Ministry of Housing, LTB Management, and the Ministry of the Attorney General. We guide landlords with how to handle non-paying professional tenants. We guide them on how to deal with dangerous situations. We educate them on their rights, responsibilities that they have under the Residential Tenancies Act. We offer a range of educational tools at no cost. We're gonna go through a couple of slides here that is the current state of the LTB. I encourage all of you today to go into Google and type in landlord and tenant board, hit Google News, and just look at what comes up and read it. Small landlord in Ottawa says delays at the LTB have left him suffering. This is CBC News just the other day. A landlord claims a professional tenant owes her $13,000. This was CTV News Consumer Alert with Pat Foran. This was on air yesterday, I believe. And this says it all. The LTB has collapsed. CBC News. This was yesterday as well. Months-long delays at the Ontario Tribunal are crushing some small landlords. CBC News. And BlogTO says the LTB is in a total state of crisis. So what does that mean? That we're in a total state of crisis? And with the LTV backlog, how does that equate to numbers? 2018, $1.6 billion in rental losses to Ontario landlords. 2019, 1.4 billion in losses. 2020, 856 million in losses. I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, the numbers are going down. That's fantastic. The numbers are not going down. The numbers are going up. Why does it say 856 million for 2020? It's because Doug Ford closed the landlord and tenant board and single-handedly created this backlog that we are in right now. Because we could not file applications at the board, we do not know the true number. So all we have at the moment is 856 million. So what does LTV delays actually look like? So let's say my tenant stops paying rent today. If I file an L1 or an L2 application at the landlord and tenant board, if I file it today, I can expect to have my hearing date 8 to 10 months from today. 8 to 10 months. Now, I want you to imagine that you are a landlord of a property. You know how much your tenant pays you. Now you have to wait 10 months without rent. Okay, so you get your you get your hearing date in 8 to 10 months. You finish your hearing. Assuming that the tenant does not try to file any claims of, does not attempt to file any appeals, stays, or reviews of the decision, you can expect to receive a decision in 2 months. You can do your sheriff-assisted eviction. Now you're at 1 year. 1 year later, after finally taking possession of your property, you have to clean it up. You have to do some costly repairs many times, and you need to get it ready. Get it ready for what? You have two options. You can exit the business, take your money, cash out on that equity you have in your rental property, and go to Alberta. The legislation is much more landlord friendly over there. Take it and go to America. The legislation is much more friendly over there. I personally know people, are Canadians, who own rental properties in Pennsylvania. They were formerly Ontario landlords. So you have that option. Or you have the second option, is roll the dice, hope you don't get a professional tenant, and hope you don't get stuck at another 8 to 10 month backlog at the LTV. I can guarantee you the majority of small landlords in Ontario are choosing the first option I gave you. They are exiting the business in this province. So what does that mean if someone exits the business in this province and they no longer want to be a landlord? It creates a strain on Ontario's housing rental market that really cannot handle any more burden. Currently, landlords taking possession of units, we know they're not putting them back on the long-term rental market. We have an increased demand for rental housing that is caused by homeowners selling their homes so they can rent instead. It's cheaper to rent than own right now. Those homeowners are coming strapped with cash, and they're ready to offer 1 year's worth of rent upfront to a landlord. And what does that mean for your average Ontario family? They can't afford it. They can't compete. We have increased interest rates, inflation, supply chain issues, and a shortage of skilled labor. It's led to developers shelving the purpose-built rental projects and purpose-built apartment buildings. Now, why does the LTV and the RTA not work? We're going to be examining this. Now, let's look at the Residential Tenancies Act. Let's look at the LTV first. The LTV disproportionately favors tenants through their legislation and conduct. Here's an example, and this is just one example, and there are going to be stories from Landlords coming up shortly that will show you how the LTB disproportionately favors tenants. An example is of a landlord that makes a minor error. For example, here's a minor error. You owe me $18,570 in rent. That's 18570. On the application, I wrote 18057. It's a simple error. But if I made that error at the landlord and tenant board, my application would be thrown out. And I would be at the back of the line, and I would be forced to wait another 8 to 10 months. Now, rental increases, they are not at par with inflation. The rise in property taxes and the cost of owning and maintaining a rental property. I'm going to give you one small example, and that's the city of Toronto. The rental property increase for 2022 was 2.9%. What was the rental increase for 2022? I believe for 2021, it was zero. At one point, we could not even increase the rent, but the city of Toronto still increased the property taxes by 2.9%. The cost of utilities keep going up. The cost of maintaining your property keep going up. The cost of insurance, the cost of skilled labor. Yet we can only increase our rent starting 2023 at 2.5%. Every year you make less money. What business does anybody stay in where you gradually see a decline in profits? Doesn't make sense. Landlords are leaving this province and they're going to more landlord-friendly provinces and the US. We have a supply, and you know the age-old rule of supply and demand, right? When there's low supply, when there's low supply, the demand increases and the cost increases. We have reduced Ontario's rental housing stock to the point that a bachelor condominium costs $1,800 a month in Scarborough. That is pathetic. We need to get back to normal numbers that average families can afford. Let's share some solutions to fixing the delay. It's really simple. Let's just hire more adjudicators that are qualified and experienced in handling a wide variety of housing-related issues. Let's conduct in-person hearings and virtual hearings at the same time. We need to do this with a multi-pronged approach. While we have some adjudicators conducting hearings in Sudbury, I can have adjudicators conducting hearings in Toronto, as well as some adjudicators at home conducting hearings online. We need to clear the backlog. Let's get to work. Let's start cross-checking incoming tenant names on L1 applications with the database that the LTB already has. If you start to notice that a tenant is consistently being brought to the LTB for the same reason, let's bring them to the front of the line. Let's get them out of that rental property and let's save that landlord. We need to stop professional tenants and we need to stop people who abuse the backlogged LTB. Let's start maintaining an LTB registry of decisions that are available online for access by the public shortly after it's made. This is extremely simple to execute. All we need is as soon as an adjudicator has a decision that's available and he's finished it and it's approved, he needs to upload it online and it's available on the LTB website in seconds. What's the advantage of that? Landlords can go to that website and search it to make sure that the applicant that they have in front of them does not owe $15,000 to someone else. Let's start taking into account high-risk tenant situations, conduct such as hoarding, refusing inspections, threats of violence. That should be sufficient evidence for me to get an early hearing at the landlord and tenant board. Currently, that's not good enough. A professional tenant. Now, what is a professional tenant? Let's identify a professional tenant. A professional tenant is a person who obtains and secures a residential tenancy with no intention of making rent payments other than the first and last required. They often use fake or forged credit scores, reports, pay stubs, job letters to secure the tenancy. Professional tenants are able to prosper because of the LTB backlog and the delays in getting a hearing. The tenant knows the timelines for being evicted are lengthy and they're using it to their advantage. They will often seek further delays and look to lengthen their free tenancy by applying for stays and filing appeals before moving on to the next property. Rinse and repeat. One solo member was recently featured in the Toronto Sun for finally removing her professional tenant who owes her $32,000. You can read about it in the Toronto Sun. Now, how can we protect landlords? We need to protect landlords if we want to encourage landlords to keep buying rental properties. What I want to see is Ontario's rental housing stock go up. I want to see the landlords that are in this room today continue to buy more rental properties. Now, here's a simple way to protect landlords. We have a CANLI database that is a valuable tool for vetting tenant applicants. It is the responsibility of the landlord and tenant board to send these decisions to CANLI. Now, I wrote to a member of provincial parliament extensively about why my tenant's decision, who owes me $35,000, which is the jurisdictional limit of the landlord tenant board, that decision is 2 years old. And to this day, I checked yesterday, I check every day. It is still not on CANLI. And nobody, including my MPP, can give me an answer as to why that decision is not on CANLI. Now, I wrote to my MPP and I asked, and the response I got was, the Landlord and Tenant Board is currently reviewing orders from February 2022 while continuing to work on improving its internal processes so that further orders are sent to CANLI in a timely manner. Now, this is an email from a case manager for an MPP that was sent to me on August 5th, 2022. My decision is from 2020. Now, it's clear the LTB is seriously behind in sending these decisions. So what does this mean? It means landlords don't know for certain if a tenant is in default. There is absolutely no way to protect ourselves. If you don't believe me, you can go to CANLI and check it out yourself. In October, this is actually really sad. In October, there is one decision currently on CANLI that the Landlord and Tenant Board has made. September, 0. August, 0. July, 0. June, 1. May, 1. April, I can keep going, but you get the point. Now, how are we going to protect landlords? Tenants evicted for non-payment of rent between March and October of this year will not show up in a CANLI search. So if you, right now, if you rented your property out during this time, be advised, your tenant may have been evicted during that time as well and may owe a landlord money right now. What does that mean? That means another landlord falls victim to the inefficiencies in the system and to the Landlord and Tenant Board. A registry of tenants who have skipped out on paying rent would encourage existing tenants to keep their tenancy in good standing. Now, if I go out, and I encourage everybody in this room to do this, if you stop paying your MasterCard or your Visa bill for 2 months, I want you to go back and check your credit score and look at what happens. MasterCard informed Equifax of that. So why should tenants be allowed to default for months on end with no financial repercussions? If I skip out on my MasterCard bill tonight, I think if a tenant skips out on his $2,000 monthly rent, that they should be reported to Equifax as well. Now, we need to level the playing field here. We need to amend the RTA. We need to give support for small landlords. We need legal aid funding for duty counsel and assistance from police. We need to create a high-risk tenant registry for those who have defrauded landlords in the past using fake credit scores, pay stubs, and job letters, or who have outstanding rent payments from previous landlords. We need to start a process for reporting fraudulent use of financial documents to police for people who obtain and keep houses using those fraudulent documents. We need to remove rental units from the Residential Tenancies Act, where the landlord and tenant reside in the same property. If a tenant is residing in the same property as a landlord and is causing a problem that is a danger to the landlord's family, the landlord needs to be able to get that tenant out without waiting in the regular line. Now, we're going to start here by starting some landlord stories. Kevin, I'm going to invite Kevin to begin his story in about 2 minutes. We're going to take a 2-minute breather. We're going to come back, and in 2 minutes, we're going to hear from Kevin and his story. But until then, I'm going to leave you with a picture of what used to be a car.
Hi, everyone. This is Nina Tangri, MPP, Mississauga Streetsville. I do apologize. I do have to leave very, very shortly. I wanted to thank you all for inviting us. There are a number of MPPs on here. My colleague, Laura Smith, is also on. Just wanted to let you know, I've done a lot of work with trying to get more people onto the Landlord Tenant Board. So I do encourage you to please have people go to the ontario.ca/public appointments, and people that you know that are qualified to please go on there, put on their profile and apply. We are filling them up as fast as possible. As you can understand, we have to do background checks and things along those lines. We have added a very large number of additional people onto the LTB, but we're not there yet to try and get the backlog. There are currently in-person and virtual hearings taking place. There has been a lot of complaints about virtual hearings because sometimes if people are in remote areas, you sometimes can't hear them very, very well. So they found that then their hearings get put to the bottom again. So we don't want that to happen either. But there is a choice, and we do ask people to choose, if they can be in person, to do that if possible. I'm going to very quickly pass it on to Laura Smith because I know she also has to leave. Laura, are you there?
Hold on. Yes, can you see me or hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you, Laura.
Great. Hi, everyone. Oh, can you see me? Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I reflect my colleague's statement. You know, our goal, and appreciate this forum, our goal is to introduce things and methods that will make things easier for landlords. We understand the challenges, and part of the new legislation and regulation will speed up housing creation, making your job easier as a landlord. We're trying to make things and build in a positive way because we understand delays in building housing drive up costs. And this is an important issue too. And this is an important factor in what we're trying to help out with. These changes will help incentivize and develop mixed rental and mid-rise buildings and speed up the implementation of the landlord's needs in building, which has been a huge setback for so many builders, so many small owners of properties, building single and semi-detached home and duplexes and triplexes. The work that we're doing will enable them to get shovels in the ground and get their work done, which is also necessary in the process. So by amending these planning acts, we're trying to make things easier and work with our municipal partners and our landlords so that we can make their lives a little easier. I'm hoping that we can partner in the future, but unfortunately, I am time restricted at this time, and I very much appreciate your reaching out to us, and hope to engage at a future time.
Can I say something? Can you hear me, ladies? MPPs?
We can hear you, Rose.
Okay. Yes, we would definitely like to partner with you in the future. Our major concern with the initiatives that you're working on right now of building housing, we have people who are going to be homeless next month. We have people who may lose their properties by January the 6th. The building of properties is not going to help the people who have been impacted and been waiting 8 to 10 months. So what we're asking is if you will partner with us to approach the ministers and let's get some legislative changes done. Those legislative changes that you're talking about will not help landlords who are in the trenches right now, or any of them that are coming into, going to fall into the trench. So is there something that we can set up so we can partner with you and talk about this further?
Sorry, I was trying to mute. So what I do suggest, and I do apologize because I really do have to leave right now. We also have this potential, if not in the fall, in the spring, a red tape reduction bill. I was the former minister of red tape reduction, and there are some of the suggestions that you're putting into the chat, things that we are hearing in our offices. We get, I can say for the most part, I have more landlords coming to me complaining than tenants that are complaining about getting evicted. But unfortunately in the House, we usually hear the other side a lot more. The opposition talks more about rent evictions and some of the other things. So we don't always get to hear about the landlord side of things, right? So my suggestion is threefold. One, you can send it to your local MPP. These are the suggestions. You can send it to my office. We are putting things together as we speak to try and have things put into these packages, because when you're talking about 60 days, that's it, they're not paid, you should have means to get them out. If you go to ontario.ca, I think it's /red tape, but feel free to reach out to my office. We can send you the links to do that, and that we can compile all of this information. We'll put it in front of the Attorney General, because I think this is where action needs to be taken quickly. And Minister Clark, who's the housing minister, and also Michael Parsley, he now has an associate housing minister. So working together, we're trying to really push things faster so we can get things done for you as well. It's not, like I said, we hear too much about the other side of it, which is tenants that complain about being evicted, as they say, for no reason. But the complaints that I get in my office, I think are outweighed, probably 90% are actually landlords that are having a very hard time. And, okay. I do understand. I've been a landlord myself. I've been there and I understand where you are. So,
okay, just to be clear.
And somebody's written in there, landlords never respond. That's not true. We've responded to every inquiry that's come to our office and forwarded it onto the Attorney General's office or to the Housing Minister as required. So
just to be clear, this is not about having. Just to be clear, this is not about having. Can she hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
I can hear you.
Just to be clear, this is not about having tenants evicted. If we have policies put in place and certain legislation change, tenants will be able to keep a roof over their head. We need MPPs who understand that we need something to happen sooner than later. Waiting for a property to be built, or even 200 properties built, or 2,000 properties to be built, by the time they're built, it's not going to fix the problem. We have people who are thinking about committing suicide now. People who are homeless, people who are trying to, they are trying to get into the house that they purchased, and they can't afford to pay the rent because the person that's living in their house that they purchased, they're paying the mortgage. So do you see how putting up framing and construction isn't going to help somebody or the hundreds, thousands of people that are in those positions? So we're looking for partners in this meeting who are willing to go to the Ministry of Minister of Housing, the Attorney General, the Minister of Social and Family Services, and get with these issues fixed. So if you are willing to help us or partner with us to do that, we would love to hear from you, and we'd love to meet with you.
So we're definitely willing to do that. And there's various options. We can do another virtual call like this. You can come to Queen's Park and meet with us or in our constituency offices. I do ask you all to make sure that you've reached out to your own local MPP, because we don't want to exclude them either. But I'm more than willing to take this to the ministries involved. Look, the government doesn't have all of the answers. We do look to the community and those who are experts in their field. And for many of you, it's because you own 1 or maybe 10 or even 50 properties. And you have a right to collect rent on those properties. And obviously nobody wants to put anyone out on the street. And with COVID, yes, we put some restrictions in, but that did not give the okay for people to stop paying rent. And this is not something that just happened because of COVID. Sorry, but it excelled throughout COVID. So apologies, I do have to go. So I ask if you can perhaps package something up that you can send to me.
Yes,
Sorry,
Nina,
yes.
Yeah, Nina, thank you kindly for your statement. Thank you kindly for coming. We will get in touch with your office, and we appreciate your participation today.
And I'll put my contact details in the chat for you as well.
We appreciate that. Thank you kindly.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good evening. Let's get back to. I'm sorry.
Can hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Absolutely.
Sorry, I just, I was listening to Nina. I just, once again, I have to get off this call as well, but please reach out. I can advise that you should reach out to your MPP with all of your questions. I personally follow up with every single landlord that I have the pleasure of receiving in my office, and tenants as well. There are there's no wiggle room in my office for not responding, and so I welcome any and all of Thornhill issues at my office, and you can also reach out to me personally. Okay.
Laura, thank you kindly for coming. Thank you kindly for your comments. We are hosting an event in Thornhill soon, and we hope to invite you to that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good night.
Let's get to our first story. Now, when I last left you, I left you with this picture of what used to be a car. I'm going to hand the mic now to Kevin. To everybody who has their hands up, we are going to hear your comments. We are going to get to them after we hear 4 landlord stories. So I ask you to put your hand down now, and please raise them when we get to that point in the meeting. Kevin, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Varun. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin, a landlord of a detached house in Oshawa, Ontario. Hopefully you can hear me. Anyway, for me, owning a house was a huge deal. I grew up poor, just trying to make something better, something to leave to my family, trying to lift myself out of poverty as a self-employed person. It was a struggle like nothing I'd ever seen. And eventually, in June of 2021, I moved west of Toronto to live with my fiance, and I rented my home to a man named Barry Friedman and his son. Barry would come to solely occupy my 4-bedroom unit, as the son would be required to live elsewhere. I would later discover that Barry altered his credit report to look more appealing as a renter. He also forged a signature and provided misleading details on his application. Even though I checked references, this man managed to con his way into my only home. By April of 2022, Neighbors reported drug use at the house, and his car was torched, as you see in the image there, in a very brazen, dangerous act. This destroyed parts of my house, the driveway. Thankfully, no one was hurt. And shortly after this, I began to discover other damages in the home. But communicating that to Barry led to him withholding rent. He'd even joke about that in emails as he learned of the LTV delays, that by the time he was done with me, he'd owned my house. Now, by May of 2022, I filed my first case with the LTV. Barry ratcheted up his terror, uttering death threats, violently attacking me, causing thousands of dollars in additional damage and even theft of my property. I called the police multiple times, provided evidence of several crimes, and they laid no charges, insisting this was an LTV matter, quote unquote. Now, by August of 2022, a minor error on my part, transposing, in fact, I just transposed two numbers in the address, forced me to withdraw the file, and that file would have certainly evicted this man. I had to start all over again, and given the violent nature of this tenant, and being granted an earlier hearing from the LTV, I'm still waiting five months later for any chance to hear my case. So now today, the tenant, he's barricaded in my home. He owes more than $20,000 in rent arrears. He's willingly caused more than $15,000 in damage, and I'm denied access to my property for even simple inspections and maintenance. This man's abuse has been emboldened by the LTV and its delays, and has left me financially and well, psychologically in tatters for the most part. You just can't stop thinking about it. So that's generally my story. I'll hand it over to the Varun, or actually we can move to Carol, who's the next landlord on the list. Are you ready, Carol?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I want to thank Solo for organizing this, and the MPPs that have shown up and stayed. I really don't have any support. My name is Carol Accent. My husband, Don, and I own properties in Thunder Bay. And what we have been through has been a nightmare. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it is, you can stay awake at night thinking about it and think that you're in a bad dream. So here is the sad but true story. Our first off, the tenant that we rented to moved in April of 2021, stopped paying rent in October of 2021. We did our first filing February the 1st, 2022. The hearing date was July 11th, 2022. Our lawyer filed for an earlier hearing date, but was denied as the LTB board said it did not meet the criteria to be serious enough for an earlier hearing. At the July 11th hearing, our case was thrown out by the adjudicator due to one little error on a date by our lawyer. The lawyer tried to fight this through for 45 minutes with the adjudicator as the tenant was posing a danger to the other tenants and the area, doing illegal activities in the premises, complete destruction of the apartment, overcrowding by having dangerous drug people living in there with her, weapons, plus the non-payment of rent from October 2021 on. The adjudicator denied granting an order to have her evicted and said we would have to file again. The tenant did not show up at the hearing at all, nor make any statement. The adjudicator closed the case as no contest. That was untrue. We contested for sure. Plus, to give you an idea of how dangerous these people are, the tenant's son, who was living with her, who was a drug dealer, was murdered on May the 23rd for bad drug dealings. He was not on the lease, but the mother brought him to live with her once she got the place. He was a very bad, dangerous person, apparently. From various sources, a lot of people have said he was the worst of the worst. After our case being denied on July 11th, our lawyer had to do two separate filings again, one for non-payment of rent and one for illegal activities, selling drugs out of the premises and creating danger due to them having weapons. The one for non-payment of rent was done 8/11/2022, and the one for illegal activities and posing danger was done 8/18/2022, as they had to be filed 7 days apart. No hearing dates have been set yet. The situation has gone from bad to worse as more and more drug people are going in and out of the premises. There has been a drug overdose on August 27th, 2022, which was all recorded on our outdoor security cameras, which we had to install for the safety of our good tenants, which have a 3-year-old daughter. I really want the LTB to think about this 3-year-old, and the police saw the 3-year-old as well. The police and paramedics were all there and called my husband to let him know what was happening. My husband went over and asked the police why they cannot get her out now, but the police said their hands were tied by the LTB and they could do nothing. They had to let her stay. We could not do anything, they informed us. The police have been in and out of there on a consistent basis, but nothing is done. She is living there with no repercussions. There was a raid a few weeks back and the police took the tenant and the people with the weapons to jail for the weekend, but they were back in the apartment by Monday morning. A rape had also happened. As well, young girls are going in and out of the apartment very drugged up and then going on the street to prostitute. So the tenant may be allowing a prostitution ring happening as well. We've seen these young girls prostituting as early as 8 a.m. in the morning as they are trying to prostitute our customers who bring their vehicles to our business. And we have to kick the girls off our lot. All the known area druggies are taking over the apartment with the deadbeat tenant. The tenant refuses to leave. As she said, the LTB told her it was her place now and did not have to pay rent or get out. Tell me how this is allowable, that a person can come and take over your place, which you took a mortgage to buy and are making all the payments and paying all the utilities. What type of country are we living in that allows this? We are unable to do another inspection as the tenant will not allow it. Plus the police said we can't until the LTB rules. The fire department cannot go in as the tenant will not allow it. This is a fire hazard, as when we did our first and only inspection in October 2021 and saw all the destruction. There were burn holes and everything and cigarettes left burning, and they have probably torn out the fire alarms. These people, this tenant got this apartment in absolutely pristine condition. The tenant has changed the locks, which she was supposed to give us a key or ask our permission, which she has done neither and has said the LTB board said she did not have to give us, the landlord, a key, and she, the tenant, could change the locks. We even called the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to have an inspector go and speak to her to give us a key. The inspector, Robert LeConte, said they do not do that, even though it is stated in their laws. He said we would have to go in personally. I told him that it was a dangerous situation and there are people in there with weapons, so we would be putting our lives in danger. He said it was the only alternative or wait for the LTB board hearing. This is insane, asking us to put our lives in danger. I have written Doug Ford and the Attorney General various times from March of 2022, but no response back. We even offered at our expense to fly to meet with them in Toronto. They must be protecting the LTB board. I have also given our story to every media outlet to grow attention and bring forward what a broken system the LTB board is. No response from the media at all. And the government, what the government has done against the good landlords is absolutely criminal. We ourselves would never have imagined how incredibly broken the system is unless we went through it ourselves. The LTB board has made many landlords sell their rental houses, so there will be a shortage for good tenants to find accommodations in the future because of the actions of the bad tenants and the LTB board allowing it. Landlords have no rights. There should be 2 boards, one for the landlords, one for the tenants, so there is a fair system. The LTB board should be held accountable to every landlord for what they have done, to all of the good landlords who follow the rules, but the LTB let the criminals live free in our premises and take over and say we have no rights as it is theirs now. The landlord should be reimbursed for all their losses they have incurred due to the broken system and the government. Again, I repeat, what type of country do we live in where criminals rule and the system allows them to? Who gave the LTB such power? Did they get our permission to let these deadbeats live free in our premises while we pay for everything? We did all the checks beforehand renting to this deadbeat tenant, but because these deadbeats know the LTB protects them, they gave us false information with no recourse. The whole system is criminal, and no one, and I don't care who they are or what governing body they are, no one is above the law. The LTB has made their own laws and they are criminal what they are doing to the landlords. Why can the landlords not sue the LTB for the long waits and all the losses landlords are incurring due to their broken system? Our lawyers sent in to have our case moved up again, he said, but the LTB board rejected it as it was not eligible for an earlier hearing. What makes illegal activity, weapons, dangerous situations, murder, non-payment of rent for 13 months, non-eligible? So far, we are owed $19,500 in unpaid rent. It would be $21,000 come November 1, and over $20,000 in damages. And in closing statement, I ask that the LTB be dismantled. Ontario is the worst province for getting deadbeat tenants out. Other provinces have them out at the longest in 3 months. The sheriff goes in and they are out. The sheriff in Ontario cannot even go in until the LTB rules. The system has got to be changed. The landlords have remained silent for too long, and we cannot take this, and we cannot take what's happening to us anymore. And somebody has got to listen to us. That's my story.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Varun.
Let's have our next speaker, Subra.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, all the MPPs, the tenant, the solo board, and all presents. I am a retired person and a victim of professional tenants, like the way the previous two speakers have spoken. My current loss till 1st of October is about $21,000 and increasing $2,500 every month. I filed my application on 2nd March 2022. And after that, I filed 3 requests for expedited hearing on the basis of my health condition certified by my doctor of increased stress and heart palpitation, loss of livelihood, denying reasonable enjoyment to my other tenants, and property damages. Every time it was rejected, and at the end, and landlord and tenant board advised me to produce a foreclosure letter or the utility disconnection bill from the utility authorities. Now, my 4th request for the expedited hearing, though, was accepted, and on the basis of the property being declared as a public health concern by a master electrician at the request of the city fire prevention officer. Now, I was given the hearing after 51 days of granting the expedited hearing, and after 8.5 months from the original application. Now, the hearing was given on 13th of October this month, where the tenant continuously disrupted the hearing by withdrawing themselves from the meeting, but at the end, wasting for 1.5 hour time, the adjudicator still granted another opportunity by adjourning the hearing on 27th. Now on 27th, that means yesterday, the tenant did not appear and the adjudicator reserved his decision saying that order will be issued as soon as possible without altering the order. But then In the evening, the tenant threatened me for prolonging this hearing as long as possible, and she has already requested landlord and tenant both to grant them extra time to cause me more harassment. Now, my fate still hangs on the decision of the adjudicator, which I have not yet known, and I spent sleepless nights worrying about the imminent danger to my tenants who put me into this situation. There are very, very long incidents, including the one which happened just day before yesterday on the drug case and threatening my other tenants. But who will listen to this? I have been reporting these things for the last 10 months to the landlord and tenant board, but they don't consider this as serious enough for early eviction. I don't want to repeat it long, but I have some questions for the honorable MPPs. Sir, may I ask you why the landlords who worked so hard in their life, paid taxes, have been a law-abiding citizen and always cooperated with the society and contributed to the society in a positive manner, has to go through this trauma at the end of their life, when their retirement saving, the retirement livelihood, their physical and mental health are being destroyed by these rogue tenants. Under Canada's democratic constitution, how and why can the law deny landlords the right to self-defense and right to equal opportunity to a fair, impartial, and equitable justice? Why are the landlords only victimized by the rights of the tenants? Why small residential landlords do not receive any government compensation while the rogue tenants destroy our property, destroy our livelihoods, but at the same time, small business receive government funding? Why the government is dumping the non-paying rogue tenants on the landlords as a strategy to address housing crisis, which is actually the government's job? Do the government still expect the small landlords to support the affordable housing program? Sir, in every occasion, we approached Ombudsman or Attorney General's office, we are told the landlord and tenant board is above law. Their decision and their functioning cannot be questioned. May I ask you, sir and madams, that where do they get their salary from? Who controls them? And if they are not accountable to anybody, why have they been given the responsibility of deciding the fate of thousands of landlords like me? And is this operation not illegal? Under the pretext of law, how can we extort the landlords in order to protect the tenants? Is it similar? Is it not similar to what happens in the mafia world? That they can still be brought to justice, but not our government and not the landlord and tenant board, because they are called, they are above the law. This is ridiculous, sir. Sometimes we think, are we in a democratic country, or are we in a place called China or in democratic in North Korea? This is ridiculous, sir. I didn't come to this country to face this sort of situation. I came to be in a peaceful place, to enjoy my retirement and to live a decent life. This has been ruined, sir. My current loss, before this current loss, there were two other tenants enjoyed the full support of MPP, and with great difficulty I had to evict them. Now this one has come. I do not know when the situation will be solved and whether I will still be in this small affordable rental business in order to help government housing affordable housing project. At the end, sir, may I request you one thing? Please do not take away our health, livelihood, and homes to protect the rogue tenants. I appreciate whatever you try to do for the community remains good, but it should be in an equitable manner where landlords have also an equal right under Canada's democratic constitution. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Subra. Thank you kindly for that. We're gonna have one last speaker. I'm gonna invite Marissa, if you're ready. If you'd like a moment, let us know.
Thank you, Varun. I'm ready.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Marissa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marissa. I'm a landlord in Etobicoke in Christine Hogarth's riding. It's a fortunate position, but it's one that I've earned. I have worked since I was 14 years old, 3 jobs as I paid my way through university. My father, who immigrated to Canada, instilled early to work hard, create your own success, and that is how I have lived my life. It was a shared value between my husband and I. It's a pillar that we built our family on. And now the broken and biased LTB system threatens our stability and forces us to financially support criminals who will do everything to avoid their own responsibilities and accountability. On September the 1st, 2021, we rented our single-family bungalow to a tenant who told me he wanted to live close to his young son and former girlfriend who lived across the street. On the day he took possession, his son, the mother of the child, and her father all came. And I thought, naively at the time, well, isn't this a healthy family, making a great attempt at stability and living family values? 2 months later, I got the chilling call that our house had been turned into an illegal rooming house, as had the house across the street that the former girlfriend occupied. As soon as they were caught, they stopped paying rent in both houses. The other landlord family and I started the formal legal process with the LTB, all notices filed in December 21, and 8 months later, after being granted an expedited date due to the illegal activity, an initial hearing with 4 cases scheduled into a 4-hour block of time, so no files were properly heard. We were frustrated. We were scared for the international students that the tenants are targeting for the rooming houses, being forced to live in dangerous conditions. So we shared our story with the CBC, a decision that would come back to haunt our LTB experience further. In our initial hearing, what the adjudicator did move on was an on-site visit of our properties. This was completely out of character for the LTB and was a proceeding that defies every common person's notion of what a legal proceeding should be. There was no court reporter, no recording devices, not so much as a pen to take notes in real time. Unfortunately, there's little that I can say about that on-site hearing at this time, as our case still remains open. What I can share was that my tenant's unleashed dog was present in the house. And when I asked for it to be leashed for safety, since he threatens to have it attack me every time we try to access the property, I was kicked out of my own property by the adjudicator. And there were multiple mentions of working with the CBC. The actions from the LTB in direct response to us exercising our constitutional rights through cooperation with the CBC have us living in fear of more retribution from them vis-a-vis delays, penalties, and judgments. 12 months in this process so far, only partial hearings, and we have no date for when this will next be heard. These tenants are professional criminals. During our 12-month process in waiting, they have rented a 3rd property in our neighborhood. So 3 families being actively victimized that we know of. They have been criminally charged with fraud, and we have learned after waiting 7 months for a request for information from the LTB that my tenant has been in at least 3 other LTB cases for non-payment of rent and damages. How many people's financial futures are they allowed to ruin before the LTB system stops enabling them to freeload while they take advantage? How many people are they allowed to threaten, harass, and torment, destroying people's mental and physical health? We are now at 12 months without any resolution. Over $30,000 in lost rent so far, $5,000 in legal costs so far, which we have had to cover by refinancing our home. Our neighboring landlord facing upwards of $100,000 in fines from the fire department. The LTV process mixed with criminal tenants is toxic. My elderly mother, who we care for and lives with us, would sometimes ask, what would your father say? What would he do? As she sees us going through this hill. And I lie to her. I tell her that I'm sure that the government won't allow this to happen. But here we are. And what do we feel other than hopeless, completely abandoned, penalized for working hard, following the rules, while the LTB sits in a white guarded tower holding all the power, and the criminal tenants make profit off of our broken dreams, our crushed spirits, and our destroyed lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. We're going to take a second here. We're going to give you folks about 1 minute, about 2 minutes. We can do better than 1 minute. I'm going to invite at this time all members of provincial parliament, any elected official that would like to speak. Please raise your hand in the chat and we'll start taking it one by one in about a minute. If anyone wants to reach out to Buba, he's the chair of Solo. He'll be speaking later at the end. That's his email address. If you want to reach Rose, she spoke earlier. She's the vice chair. If you want to reach me, that's my email address. We encourage you to, sorry, I'm actually going to make a correction here. I need to correct Rose's email address. If you want to reach us, the best email address to reach us at is solo@soloontario.ca. It's easy to remember. solo@soloontario.ca. Anyone who has a problem with a tenant, if you need advice, guidance, suggestions, if you just need someone to talk to, give us a call, give us an email. We'll get in touch with you and we'll talk. At this time, I want to invite the Honorable Member of Parliament from Ottawa, Vanier, to speak. I believe she had her hand up.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm not honorable member, just a member of provincial parliament.
I apologize.
No,
sorry about that.
It's okay. I don't want to.
It's been a while since I've done this. I forget a lot of the technicalities. Thank you for joining us.
It's quite okay, and I'm very glad that I was here to hear all of that conversation and the testimonies. And I want to say I'm with the Liberal Party of Ontario, so I'm in the opposition. I'm not with the government, so my job is to hold the government accountable on matters that don't work properly. And I want to also say that I'm also here with my colleague Mitzi Hunter, the MPP for Scarborough-Guildwood, and she's been here also listening throughout the whole presentation.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, there she is.
Want to say hi? Yeah.
And And I also want to say, really thank you for organizing this and for giving a voice to the small landlords, which to me, it's very obvious that they are a very important part of the solution for affordable housing. And driving them out of the market is just going to hurt the province of Ontario. And that's very obvious to me that we need to support our small landlords because we need them. And so we need to do whatever it takes. I consider myself as a small landlord because I guess I live in the house with my 4 children and my mother. My mother occupies like a portion of the house, and I couldn't imagine having a bad tenant in her place. So I understand what you've been going through, and I want to say that I was very touched by the stories that were shared tonight. And it also resonates with a lot of the stories that I'm hearing, from people reaching out to my office. But I also have to say that I get stories in my office and requests from help from both the landlord side and the tenant side. And to me, it's a big, big indication that the LTB needs to be fixed. It's broken, not only for small landlords, for everyone. And I don't know if you've seen, but I did on September 26th, actually, I issued a press release saying that Doug Ford must fix the landlord and tenant board backlog. And, I think that it's very obvious now that the virtual hearings that have been imposed on everyone is not working well for a lot of people, and that we need to bring back in-person hearings because there's so much that can be done, in the, I'm not going to say in the hallway, but before you get to the hearing, there's a lot of conversation that can happen between landlords and tenants to try to find a resolution. So I think it's very important, but I think the most important point that I brought in my press release was to ask the government to conduct an inquiry and to assess and report on the justice delivery system of the law, the LTB, the Landlord and Tenant Board. Because I think the system is broken. It needs to be fixed. And I've heard that from a lot of you. Some of you said, dismantle it, get rid of it. But I think that what we need is really a system that works. And I'm saying that because I've been consulting not only with small landlords, not only with tenants, but also with lawyers that represent these parties before the board. And it's definitely a problem that needs to be fixed. And that's a big responsibility on the government. And I will continue to advocate for that we look into that we bring in some adjudicators with experience and, with some tangible experience so that we can move along those cases. And the issues are, they can be complex. So that's why we need good adjudicators. We also need the enforcement to be involved because there's a lot, like I've heard from you and I've heard it before, there's a lot of, intricacies with people breaking the laws at different levels. So we definitely need to do something about that. And there needs to be a review of the whole system. So anyway, to the extent that I can do, I will continue to advocate on your behalf about, fixing the LTB because I truly believe that it needs to be fixed. And I invite you also to reach out to me if you want to. I'll be asking a question in the House pretty soon about that as soon as I get the opportunity because I think it's very important. It's a priority. And, if there's something that I can do to help you, do reach out. And at this point, I would just like to invite maybe my colleague, MPP Mitzi Hunter for Scarborough-Guildwood, if she would like to also share her own experience.
Thank you, merci, Lucille, and good evening, everyone. I've been here all evening listening to you, and I really want to thank Solo and those who contribute their time to organize and to make sure that our small landlords have a voice, and that your voice is heard, and for inviting all of us as MPPs to be here with you. My colleague Lucille has been such a passionate advocate, as have I strongly believe that everyone deserves to have a good place to live. And in order to have that, you have to have housing supply. And it really pains me to hear the frustration of the small landlords having to take units off the market and not making them available. And I can hear that it pains you as well. Thank you so much to those who shared their personal stories, to Kevin, to Carol, and to, I believe it was Marissa, who, really shared very, very important details about your experience with tenants who are just not following the law and not following the rules. I do want to say that this issue has been made worse since COVID, and like Lucille, I will continue to press the government to do something about it. Even just something very simply, which is to make sure that the tribunals are staffed appropriately so that they can hear cases and make decisions and render those decisions. I do see that there has been some effort to create a portal as of December, I believe, of 2021, so less than a year ago, as well as to provide online flexibility as well, which I heard earlier. You want to see more of that, even maybe hybrid, both online and as well as in person. And I just I feel like you're all hanging in there. That's why you're part of Solo. You want to maintain your properties, your investment. Perhaps it's something that you need for your retirement security, and these are good things for us as a society to have. But you want that system to be fair. I'm also taking note of some of the innovative ideas I've heard today, such as perhaps even separating these two streams. And I hadn't heard that before. Maybe that requires further study. But your issues should not be ignored, and they are not. Certainly, Lucille and I are both here as members of the Ontario Liberal Party. And we will continue to raise a voice in the legislature and press this government to take quicker action in support of your issues by clearing that backlog and making sure that the resources are there so that that the system is working for everyone concerned. Thank you.
Thank you kindly to the Member of Provincial Parliament from Scarborough-Guildwood. It was an absolute pleasure of mine to live in Scarborough-Guildwood for a number of years. Do we have any members of Provincial Parliament who would like to make a statement?
Before anybody else speaks.
Yes, I was, yeah. If there isn't, we're going to get to the member for Provincial Parliament from Toronto Centre, Kristen Wong-Tam, who is also the critic for the Attorney General. Kristen, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm sorry, folks, to be joining you rather late. It's been a bit of a long day, but I did have staff, I should apologize, taking notes for me, and they were actually almost giving me your comments and feedback almost live as you were having this discussion. So I feel like I am caught up, although I wasn't physically with you until about 15 minutes ago. I wanted to just offer you a few thoughts. Number one is to introduce myself. My name is Kristen Wong-Tam, and as Varun has correctly noted, I am the official opposition critic for the Attorney General. But prior to coming to Queen's Park, I'm a new rookie MPP. I did spend some time at City Hall, but even before my time at City Hall, I was 16 years veteran in the real estate and financial sector. So I worked with Centum Financial Services and Coldwell Banker. I was a managing sales manager there for about 6 of those 16 years. So real estate and financial services run deep in my long professional life. Before I actually came to Queen's Park, I have worked with both landlords as well as tenants on numerous occasions, different types of real estate investments, as well as purchasing homes. And I've never seen the mess that we have right now in Ontario with the landlord tribunal. Landlord tenant tribunal. It is an understatement to say that it's broken and needs a massive overhaul. The provincial government led by Doug Ford has not been investing in the LTB. They have not been appointing adjudicators since 2018, and the adjudicators that they have appointed perhaps need to be going through different qualifications. It is grossly unfair for anyone to stand up and still say that the pandemic is slowing things down. I just am not willing to buy that. I'm very, very discouraged by the stories that I'm hearing from both. To be quite honest, everybody is unhappy with the LTB, but the claims and the statements and the concerns that small landlords as well as big landlords, to be quite honest, that have been brought forward should not be lost in that. Everybody knows that this system is broken and needs to be dramatically overhauled, especially since it's the busiest of the tribunals that's under the Ministry of the Attorney General. Over 90,000 cases are heard every single year. And it really is a gross sort of affront to justice when you can't get a hearing date for months and now sometimes over years. I can't imagine what it feels like to be a landlord that is trying to make ends meet. The rise of interest rates, the rise of property taxes, and the cost to run a property these days is just through the roof, including the heating and the cooling costs. Everything is costing more. So when you are living hand to mouth, check to check, as some of the small landlords are, I know you've poured your life investments into those properties and you cannot collect reliable rent. It is a challenge. I can certainly understand that, if someone defaults on their rent 1 or 2 months, that's going to set you back and it's very difficult to recover, then let alone be held in a way that doesn't allow you to move forward. A bank will take notice and take action if you're a couple months behind your mortgage. So there's really no reason why you should be left without a clear access to justice in a timely fashion. I do want to note that bringing this to the attention of the Attorney General and all those who have the power to do something about it is something that our party is deeply committed to. We know that the LTB is really grossly underfunded, it's under-resourced, and today we found out from the Financial Accountability Office is that the Department of Justice, which includes also spending into the LTB and all the tribunals, they've underspent by $2.3 billion. So it's not like the money doesn't exist in the province, because we have it, but they just haven't been doing the work. And that is grossly unfair to you and to everybody else that's in line to get some of that work done. I want to just end with a particular note that I'd like to just offer. Our party has written to the Attorney General before, even in the last term. Certainly, I've made a request to meet with the Attorney General just to understand where is he sitting on this issue. How big of a priority is this for him? He's got a lot of competing interests. What does he tackle first? And he's going to be absolutely critical to making this system work again for everybody, because the PCs have a super majority. They can dissolve the City of Toronto and every municipality should they want to. So we're going to need to work with them, or at least try to apply as much pressure so that they know it has to be done. Landlords should not be, especially private landlords. I know that many of you are not in the business of social housing. And so when we have vulnerable tenants who are in your care, renting your properties, and if they don't have adequate wraparound supports, you should not be that fine line between homelessness, chronic homelessness, and social housing. And I entirely appreciate that many of you are living with some very challenging situations that really should be tenants who are in supportive housing, public housing, housing that is provincially and municipally and federally funded with the mental health and addictions supports. So therefore, you are not the social worker. And I want to just be really clear that I don't expect anyone here to be a social worker or an addiction research counselor or anything else. I know that what you want to do is provide a form of housing, and that's your business. It's your livelihood or a portion of your livelihood. And right now what I'm seeing is that there's too many people who are falling through the cracks, and somehow small landlords have been asked to pick up the crack. So therefore, those who've fallen through because of the lack of deeply affordable supportive housing is not being built in Ontario and not being funded in Ontario, you are feeling that pressure. And that's grossly unfair to you. And I thought it would be important for me to acknowledge that. I'll leave my remarks there. We could probably speak all night, but you've already had a long evening. And I'm happy to continue to read the chat and stay in touch with Solo. I know that you are doing some really important advocacy work, and I just want to make sure that you know that you have representation in the Ontario New Democratic Party. We are very committed in working with you to address the systemic problems with the LTB.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your statement and for attending tonight.
Thank you.
May I ask Kristen a question? Kristen, can you hear me?
Rose, I can hear you. I just I want to make sure that I'm not taking up the space. So if Varun is moderating, Varun, would you like me to answer the question? Because I'm happy to. I just don't want to jump the queue for anybody.
Thank you, Kristen. Absolutely. Let's have Rose's question.
Okay. It seems that you seem to be the most in tune so far with what our concerns were presented tonight. And even though you can write a letter to the Attorney General, we need legislative changes done. So do you have any ideas how we can get that accomplished?
That is a great question, Rose. I feel like there's probably, I'm going to try to answer it in two prongs. Number one is through a private member's bill. And I saw somebody raise that as a potential way for us to get the issue onto the table. And certainly that is something I could consider putting forward through some good research and how we can surgically make that happen. The challenge I have, and I'm new to Queen's Park, so I just got here in June. But what I've seen so far is the government is shutting down private members' bill, really good ones, even from the Liberal Party or being, propositioned by perhaps Green members, and certainly with members as well, member motions as well as private members' bill from the NDP. They're just shutting everything down. And one thing I've learned is that over the past 4 years, they have only allowed four or five private members' bill and member motions through that were not government bills. And if you can imagine, like, there are good ideas that come from across the political spectrum. It doesn't matter if you're right wing or left wing. We all have something to contribute, but they have been crushing every single opposition member bill. Now, doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it, because we can still advance the debate. We can still put the pressure on the government, even if it means that they look us in the eye and then vote against something that you as Solo has been advocating for. And I think that the advantage here is that everybody is unhappy. Your coalition is so much bigger than Solo. The tenants are unhappy, the large landlords are unhappy, the small landlords are unhappy. No one is happy with the LTB. They all want the backlog cleared. And so we could try to put forward something that talks specifically about fulfilling the adjudicator roles that have been left empty since 2018, number one. And then number two, perhaps setting a limit on how long does one wait. You shouldn't have to wait. No one should have to wait 12 months for a hearing. That's just not on.
Okay. All right.
Can I just say something, Rose or Varun, if I may?
Absolutely, please go for it.
Hi everyone, it's Mitzi Hunter, MPP, Scarborough Guildwood, and I've been elected now for 9 years, so I've definitely served within government as minister and also in the opposition side as well, which is where I am now. And one thing I would say, Rose, is that there are opportunities for solo, given that you have the support of your members across the province, and the examples that you provide, they're very powerful. Lucille, also agrees that these stories are need to be heard, and the ideas that you have to improve legislation and to improve the process at the Landlord and Tenant Board and the outcomes for everyone involved. So there is an opportunity for the current bill, Bill 23, that is being debated in the legislature right now on housing. Once it gets to committee, you have the opportunity to sign up and to present and to be a witness at those committees. So I encourage you, even actually before it gets to committee, to get on that list. And it is an opportunity to be before the governments, because as Kristen Wong-Tam has said, the government has this supermajority. So it is really up to them what they support and what passes legislation. And there are other committees such as finance and justice committee, where find a way to get on those lists and to get in front of as many of the MPPs as possible with your ideas and the influence that you want to bring to improve legislation on behalf of your members.
How do we get on that list?
I will put it in the chat, Rose, and you can sign up from there.
Okay, wonderful. That's very, very, very information. We would like to be able to advocate for our rights versus protesting, out in the streets. But we will protest if we have to, and we already have. But we are trying to do it the political way. And we don't want to have to, exercise other means. So these tips are very, very helpful. We did actually meet you at our chair met you at a finance committee last February.
I do remember that. And that's also why I'm encouraging you to come back, keep coming back, be known as, an organized group of people to get that attention that you need and deserve.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
If I can add just a little bit, and just to put on that point, you can't downplay the importance of your intervention. I know there's a lot of cynical, comments out there that doesn't matter, and nobody's listening and whatever, but it does matter. You are the principal actors that can bring information forward. So don't dismiss that. Like, play your role in the legislative process and bring your voice forward. And, at some point they will have to listen. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, just have a little comment on Miss Lucy Kohler, please.
One second, please. Thank you all the MPPs who have made their statements. We really appreciate your attendance this evening. I want to give the mic. Is there any other member of provincial parliament or any elected official here this evening that would like to say something, anything? If not, I'm going to, we are at 7:13 here. I got 15 minutes. It's crunch time. I don't know why they put me in charge, but we're going to see if we can do this. I want to give the mic to Buba. Buba is the chair of Solo. His contact information was in the email, is on the screen right now. Buba, please go for it.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello.
We can hear you. I can hear you, Buba. Go for it. Okay. So I want to add, and I should have said this before Buba went ahead. Buba is currently situated in Africa. He is going to tell you exactly where in Africa he is, but he's just a little outside of Scarborough, which is where I am right now.
That's true, but I'm going back to Canada this Saturday. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear member of the Ontario Parliament, small housing provider, professional and observer. Housing is a human right. As such, small housing provider offer a valuable missing middle between homelessness and big corporation landlord housing. We, small housing provider, feel a basic need, and we have on the majority a good working human-to-human relationship with our tenants. We love our tenants. Yes, we have our bad apple like in any profession, but Solo's mission is also to educate, advocate, and prevent. We are not asking for eviction for the sake of eviction, only as a last resort, but we also want justice. As you can see from the previous intervention, Houston, we have a problem. The LTB is experiencing difficulties to adjudicate on a timely manner, and we must all work together for the benefit of all Ontario residents and for the sake of our communities. We need help from the community and, more importantly, from you, the elected official, opposition, or government that represent us in the parliament. Time is no longer for talks, for study, for denunciation. Time is now for action. Both tenants and housing provider want action, fairness, common sense, acknowledgement that small housing provider and good tenants are being victimized by a system that is not working. What do we want? We want a short timeline to get a decision from the LTB. This is the biggest ask. We have solution to reduce the backlog. Financial support to suffering housing provider who lost money without their fault. We want to make a distinction between a small mom and pop landlord who has 100% of his income from 1 or 2 property versus large corporate landlord that can afford some losses for few months. We want to make the LTB accountable to follow their own guideline that says they will make an order within 5 business days, and they will schedule a hearing within 25 business days, which is not happening right now. We want to desensitize the bad behavior from the small segment. We would call them professional tenants. They are using the delay as a way to live house-free in housing providers' home. We want to encourage law enforcement, I'm one of them, to make a distinction between a tenant who is having a dispute or having a financial difficulty. This is an LTB issue. And a fraudster, somebody who intends to use the system to defraud, which is a criminal code offense, a law-obeying citizen who worked hard to provide housing to people in need, etc. We expect this historic summit has highlighted the need to find a solution for both good housing provider and good tenants. Because we are Canadian, we believe in fairness, we believe in civility, honesty, and we encourage hard work. That's why millions of people all around the world dream and choose to come and live in the second to none country and its best province, Ontario. We will follow up, we will not relent. We are coming with easy implementable solution. We need political will to right all the wrong done to small housing provider. We understand the optic of the rich, greedy landlord. Believe us, we don't fit that caricature. We want to work, and we are working with our tenant in the majority of the cases that you never heard of. You want solution? Yes, we are offering solution. We want action, and we want it now. To the housing provider, let's keep the fight for justice. Join Solo, have your voice heard. Go to the website and click register to join link. It's free, and volunteer to help your fellow housing provider. Thank you all, and God protect and bless Ontario and Canada, and keep our province open for business to housing provider. Thank you again.
Thank you, Buba. Thank you kindly. I'm not going to ask what time it is right now where you are. I don't want to know, but I have had a very long day. We got 10 minutes left, and I know there are a number of people who want to speak. I know there are a number of small landlords in here who need to have their voices heard. I'm going to ask the first person I see who has their hand raised, Rosine. Please unmute yourself if you can unmute yourself. Or let's get Kevin to, oh, there we go. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Varun, can you see me?
Absolutely, I can see you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, first of all, for everything that you guys have been doing. I'm so grateful and thankful that Solo has been doing this work. I'll be very brief because I know we only have 10 minutes. I'm really disappointed today from what I've heard from the members of provincial parliament. And as much as I would behoove me to say that we are in a state of inclusion and belonging and working together, it disappoints me that government officials that were here did not stay to hear these tragic stories that should be on the media. Varun, I've already sent you an email. I literally do not want to talk about solutions here because I don't know who is here. But I'm committing to you, I'm committing to everyone here today that I'm going to do everything in my power to assist and facilitate and to start to get these stories out, because this is a travesty. You can Google my name. My name's Moisin Hashem. I'm the Executive Director of Hockey for Youth Foundation here in Toronto. It's a charitable organization that I've built from the ground up, and I've done extensive media about inclusion and belonging and diversity. I am sickened by the stories I've heard today. I can't believe that in this country that my parents immigrated to 50 years ago, as refugees fleeing war, that criminal activity is allowed to be happening inside of properties and there's no recourse. It is disgusting what I've heard today. I literally wanted to throw up and cry. I'm frustrated. I can see through the comments here. I understand that the MPPs are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to talk about their parties and what exactly they need to do as their party. Yeah, that's going to happen. If you invite them, that's exactly what they're going to do. They need to toe the line, and that's just something we have to understand. But I'm committing to you today. I'm going to take time out of my busy schedule to put all of my efforts into helping to bring these stories to light. And I'll leave it at that. And the last thing I'm just going to say is, you know, I've heard stories and I've seen stories about the LTB and adjudicators kind of pushing their weight. Well, I'm sending a message today to all the LTB and to any adjudicators that it doesn't end with you. You are not God. You do not get to decide the fates of people, hardworking people that have put their money on the line, that are paying mortgages and taxes, that are paying for services. This system will be broken down. This system is going to come down. I am ready to help. I'm ready to do that. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate everything and all the hard work that people are putting in. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming tonight. I did receive your email, and I will reply to you shortly. So here's how we're going to do this with the limited time we have left. If you want to speak, please raise your hand, and we'll knock it out one by one. All right. The next one, Sam. We can get Kevin to please unmute Sam. Sam, go for it.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Sam.
Okay. I just want to ask that instead of we are talking and do this one, why we cannot go to the minister home or office and we want to demand for the amend the law as soon as possible, because the years and years the same scenario is going and we need the action. Then, you know, we need to force to the government, say that the law is broken, no one following the law. We want a new law which favor for everyone. You know, for example, if the lease, when the lease ends, if the tenant decide not to go, then there's no way the landlord can go and ask the tenant to move out the home, because everything is protected for them. So we need to demand for the new law instead of fixing the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We won't be going to any ministers' houses or anything like that. But Sam, if you want to participate earlier, Kristen did mention, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know who mentioned it, but one of the members of provincial parliament did mention there are opportunities to participate. There are committees there that you can join. We did share it on the screen earlier. Please get out and do that. Can we have the next speaker, please? Was it Alina?
Hello, good evening, everybody, and thank you, Sola, for organizing this wonderful event. It's really nice to feel that we are not alone with this trouble. And I know that I have like 5 minutes, so I'll try to be brief. So I'm a landlord who suffered from this from the tenants, and as well I'm a paralegal. So basically, even being a paralegal, so basically knowing most of the rules of RTA and tenancy in Ontario, we still got into trouble because we I thought that basically that the rules of the LTB can be applied to our situation. And in particular, we were selling, we sold our home, our rental unit, and I knew that there is a request to shorten time to get the early hearing. So I assume that for the LTB, the fact that we have a valid agreement of purchase and sale, the closing date approaching. So I thought that this would be a valid reason for the LTB to give us the early hearing. Unfortunately, this did not help. I did 3 requests to shorten time. All of them were denied. I tried to do the review of the order within the LTB. They also told me that they cannot do that because allegedly this review was only applicable to the orders, so they did not consider this decision, this interim decision regarding the early hearing, as an order. So, and the LTB did not even respond to my 3rd request. They just went to the air. So, and basically, yeah, our loss is estimated at approximately $100,000 because we were selling our home when the market was quite hot. And by this time today, so as you know, the market went down. So we're trying to sell it now. The tenant is still in the house, barricaded. I like this word used by one of the previous speakers. And she denies all access to the house. We tried this is about the property in Barrie. We tried to use the police officers to help us to inspect the property, and it happened 2 weeks ago. And we called them before going to the inspection because the tenant did say that she will not allow any access to the unit. So instead of making, and we live in Thornhill, so it's a long way for us. So we contacted Barrie Police. They told us on the phone that yes, they will help us to get into the house for inspection. And then when they came, unfortunately, they told us no, they cannot do anything. They knocked on the door. The tenants did not open, and they said no, they cannot enter. And they even said that even if the tenants opened the door and saw the police and told us that they do not want us inside, the police could not do anything. So this is a frustrating situation. Yeah, we do not know exactly how much money we will be losing in the end because the prices keep falling down, and we're trying to sell our rental property. And now we're trying to sell it to an investor, so that the investor would assume the tenancy. However, the tenants unfortunately interfere with our lawful right to show it because she denies showings, and we know that basically even if we accept the showing, but she does not let the potential buyers in. So the buyers will not be like breaking in, right? They will just turn away. So yeah, this is a frustrating situation, and we are. I live in Canada for 16 years, and this is our only rental income. So we do not fall into the category of rich, greedy landlords owning like multiple properties. And what I can say is that after such frustrating experience, this is for sure that we will, even if we, when hopefully we sell our property finally. We will never ever rent it out. If we have a property, never ever. It will just stay empty rather than I will leave it empty rather than letting some tenants inside because of this unfortunate experience with LTB.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you very much for that. And as Alina says, another rental unit has left Ontario's rental housing stock right there. Ritesh.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Varun. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I know time is limited, so I'll directly come to my question. Even if a landlord gets the eviction notice, my tenant is threatening that he is going to challenge the decision and it will go another 6 to 8 months waiting for the hearing. Is that true? Any paralegal, anybody can answer. And anybody knows.
Ritesh,
Can they challenge that decision as well?
Ritesh, I can tell you, Ritesh, that there have been situations with solo members where once a decision has been made by an adjudicator, the tenant has filed a review and has done so without merit for the purposes of seeking a delay. What that delay is after you receive a decision and after the tenant files a review, I do not know. But there is a delay, and unfortunately that is something that is happening and that we need to see end. I would encourage you, Rita, please reach out to your paralegal. Talk to your paralegal. And if you aren't working with the paralegal and if you're a self-represented litigant, please get in touch with Landlord Self-Help Center or get in touch with Solo. We have legal professionals that are
I will actually. I'm a self-represented
Please
landlord right now.
get in touch with me. You have my email is varun@soloontario.ca. And
I do. Yeah.
With someone, Ritesh.
I will get in touch with you for sure.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Sylvia, please go ahead, Sylvia.
Yes, hello, folks. Can you hear me? And can you see me?
We can hear you and we can see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yes, of course. No, you know what? I just wanted to get on the call to say, you can go ahead and lower my hand. I'm on my phone. I can't really do it right now. So I just wanted to say how grateful I am for this association because I'm brand new to this association and I happen to also be an attorney. And I have been stymied by this process and shocked. And, the story that we saw on CBC with that woman and her young daughter, autistic child, I mean, that's sort of my situation right now. And I cannot believe that this actually happens in the province of Ontario. And so I am just so heartened to see so many people. And what I'd like to do is I would like to find a way for all of us to be able to connect to each other. If I don't know if that happens or whatever, but I mean, because every single person I talk to about the problem, they're like, oh, but have you done this? Have you tried that? Like they have no idea what we're going through. And so that's basically what I wanted to say is if we can connect like some kind of chat or something, so we can get ideas and suggestions from each other, things that have worked and haven't worked. And also Varun and Rose and some other people. I just, thank you so much for doing this because it's so needed. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for joining us. We have one last landlord, Nevin. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you for this so much. I just want to say something quickly, and I would like the officials here to hear us. Any contract has an end date, and the lease, when we do fixed lease, it has an end date. It should be with the approval of the landlord and the tenant to renew. It should not be an endless tenancy. It's up to the tenant to leave the house even if the contract is ended. How come? And I cannot get my house back except if I go through the LTB and wait for 8 months. Even if I want it for my daughter. And then they can go and say I want it for bad faith and then I don't get it. And I pay mortgage, I pay taxes. Everything has an end date. How come a tenant can take my property forever? It doesn't make sense. I have only one property and I don't know how to get it back for my adult daughter. So it doesn't make sense. Any lease has an end. So we need really the officials to help us reform the act so that a fixed term is ended. That means the landlord and the tenant negotiate new terms, or the landlord take his house back, like any contract. Can I rent a car and keep it forever? Or can I have an employment and don't like stay forever there? Everything has an end date. That's all what I want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I apologize. We need to end this. We have had today a very productive session. We heard from a number of small landlords who are hurting. We heard from members of provincial parliament who want to implement solutions, right? We know they want to. We heard from Rose, we heard from me, we heard from Buba, we heard from other small landlords who have solutions that we can implement today. We shared some details about committees you can join, that you can voice your opinions. I encourage you all, if you have a situation that you're in, reach out to the media, reach out to your elected officials, reach out to your member of provincial parliament and encourage them and tell them that you need the backlog at the LTB cleared. That's it. If we clear the backlog at the LTB, everything else will fall into place. We can increase Ontario's rental housing stock by clearing the backlog. You can encourage more landlords by clearing the backlog. You can build more rental units by clearing the backlog. Let's just start with clearing the backlog, everyone. Reach out to your members of provincial parliament and do that. As for this evening, unless anyone wants to stay and hear me speak on a Friday evening until the wee hours of the morning, you can stay in here and I can keep going and I can keep talking about fixing the backlog. But I am due for supper at 8 o'clock. I'm late for that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for sharing your stories tonight. Thank you to the members of provincial parliament for coming. We truly do appreciate it, and we're so happy to have had this opportunity. Let's enjoy the rest of our evening, and everyone have a good weekend. Take care.
Okay, everybody can leave the meeting now. If you look for that red button on the screen, just click on leave. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.